Welcome to the Low Tox Life podcast.
I hate to think of what the future generations are going to think about the policies and the decisions we made during this time that has set them up for maybe not as pleasant a life. That's why I wanted to just holler and scream and write that we can do better. We've got to start asking the hard questions and analyzing our own talents in our own area. And we could change this, but we can't continue waiting for somebody else to come do it.
Welcome, new and long-time listeners. I'm so thrilled to have you on the show this week, where I invite back Steve Nygren from Serenby. Now, Serenby, we talked about it 7 years ago on the show now. In today's show, we talk about, now that Serenby is over 20 years old, what the proof in the pudding is for this fantastic integration between the natural world and eco-living, as well as all the best that cities have to offer us in terms of community, culture, art, and more. Steve is here to inspire us to think about what we can change in your own backyard, which is also the topic of his book. A quick handover to our podcast partners helping you with your low tox swaps, and then we shall jump right in. Our major partner, OzClimate, is an Australian offer, and they give you 10% off with the code LowToxLife all year round. A question I get asked often is, do I need a dehumidifier, an air filter, or both? And the thing to remember is an air purification helps reduce the toxic burden of your indoor air across all types of things, from pollens, dust mite, mold, VOCs from building materials. It reduces the level of toxins in your indoor air. Dehumidification reduces the moisture in your indoor air, helping you prevent the growth of mold and the contamination of your soft furnishings, clothes, and of course yourself. Because when it's over 60% humidity, mold is then given the perfect environment to grow. All it needs is dust particles or any kind of soft furnishing that it can grab onto, and it will literally start its job of multiplying and decomposing things. So dehumidification is for moisture control, reduction, and of course, therefore, the prevention of the growth of mold in your indoor environment. And air purification is for the overall reduction of toxic burden of a multitude of things for your indoor air. So hopefully that helps answer that question. A big thank you to OzClimate for being our partner, and let's get into the show. Hello, Steve. How are we doing?
Good. How are you today?
I am well, and I can't believe it, but it has been 6 years since we last spoke, and you showed us the window into Serenbe, this incredible place that you had created, envisaged really, and then brought to life. And I will definitely be sharing links to the initial show because the story of how it came to be is truly inspiring. How are things going?
Things are going wonderful. You know, it's the pandemic, I think, showed how many things are really broken. Communities were not functioning, where people lived was not functioning. People became lonely when they were staying at home. And so post-pandemic, there has been so much focus on nature forward, connecting to one another. And Serenby, of course, has come up at the top of many people's list to come check it out. And of course, during the pandemic, we functioned fairly regularly because we have the front porches that people were spending their time on, and you know, people were on the streets, sidewalks, waving. All of our patios have terraces, so we never really shut down. We did a period of to go, and people would pick it up and they'd go out on the patio, and so we had literally caravans of people coming here from West and East Coast. They thought they were coming to rent for a couple months until things slowed down, and of course, they all ended up buying houses. Their kids are enrolled in school, and life's changed. Our school went from, I think, 48 people pre-pandemic to now it has 240 kids in it.
Oh my goodness.
No, I mean exploding.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, No, you keep going. You keep
Well, I
going.
was going to
Keep
say,
telling
and
us.
since we talked, we have opened the motto. We were probably just breaking ground on our village on health and wellness. Each
Mm.
of our villages has a commercial focus that we tried to present. Now, those things are in any of them. So we have the arts, we're studios and a lot of things, but there's studios in other places. And then, of course, the agriculture, that's where the farms are and the general store and all those kinds of things that are related to agriculture and farm. And then we broke ground about the time we talked on motto, which is on health and wellness. Well, today I'm happy to report there are over 27 health providers, from your traditional family doc and pediatrician and dentist and physical therapist to a lot of alternative healing methods. We have what I believe is the United States' first totally non-chemical pharmacy.
Wow.
The couple that read about us in Boulder, Colorado, and had been dreaming about doing this, and packed up and came. And another person who had been representing equipment for all your spas around the world came here on a post-convention tour, called his wife and said, "Come down here." Uh, they bought, and now they have opened one of the greatest alternative with your cryovac and your oxygen therapy and all incredible. So,
Amazing.
so things are really moving in so many ways. And then from agriculture, we have anywhere from the Rodale Institute putting their Southeast Research Center here, to
Mm.
the Conservation Fund launching their Farms Fund, Saving Farms. We've just saved the 1,000th acre in Metro Atlanta, just across the road from Serenby, with 3 farms. And now the city's getting ready to hire what we would call an ag commissioner,
Hmm.
and we've identified 80 what we call homesteaders. These are people stepping off the corporate or retiring, or one spouse is deciding to start farming an acre or something in their backyard. So there's a lot happening here.
There is a lot happening. And what I'm hearing is you don't have to choose. You don't have to choose between culture and rural. You don't have to choose between alternative and conventional. Like it's just all there existing. And for me, one of the beauties of what you've created is none of these things have been politically coded into, you know what I mean? Like
Oh,
right
I know
now,
exactly what you mean. And,
like,
and, and we've
yeah.
saved several marriages because of it. You
Talk to
say,
me
how's
about
that?
that.
Okay, so generally, you know, generally in couples, you're different. That's one of the
Yeah,
reasons you come
we
together.
are
You're
pretty
different.
different. Yes.
But generally, you have to decide if you're going to be in a place where you're urban and walking, or a place connected to nature. And
Mm,
here, you just have to decide which door you're going out. Uh,
yeah.
and they've said, gosh, we have some people that are more introvert and extrovert. And I said they always were having to negotiate when to get to a party and when to leave. Here, everybody walks because it's all within walkable. And so you're not tied to one another like we have become with our very auto-dependent society.
Mm,
And so literally some people said our marriage has improved since moving here because we don't have to negotiate these things that we used to have to negotiate.
mm. That's incredible. And but it makes so much sense, right?
Common
It's
sense.
yeah, yeah, 100%. And so I want to bring up privilege because it doesn't, like, you would need to have the wherewithal to be able to come and uproot and put your life there. Is it representative of lots of different socioeconomic levels of, like, oh, I could actually have a shot at
Well,
moving
well,
there?
well, thanks for clarifying that, because number one, we brought 500 landowners together
Mm.
to change the zoning on 60 square miles.
Wow.
this many square miles remained undeveloped in metropolitan Atlanta because it's the worst school systems.
Mm.
There were no services. There were no roads going anywhere. And so, we had found this as our country home. So what they needed here was executive housing to balance the tax base.
Mm.
And so that was my first goal. We didn't need affordable housing. The area is full of it, and the little town next to us, with a population of almost 3,000 people, it is mostly all workforce housing.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we've done is bring in the executive housing, and with that we've brought good schools, we have brought arts programming, and our tax base at Serenby, which is, we've only disturbed 300 acres for actual development, is 60% of this larger city, with a full-time fire of 16 people, a full-time police department about the same, full-time public works. So we brought quality of life to everyone in those other, places.
Yeah.
But that said, everyone, I understand, can't pick up and move to Serenby.
Mm.
But this is why I've just written a book, because I want everyone to understand that there's things you can take home that are not expensive. Putting blueberry bushes in your front yard, or neighborhoods, putting them at the crosswalks like we have, it raises spirit, and this isn't expensive stuff. There are so many things that have nothing to do with dollars.
Yeah.
It's thoughtful design in what you're going to
100%.
do.
All you need to do is look at the inspiring community gardeners who had a vision, like Ron Finchley, and like what he's been able to do in California. And it just starts with desire and recognizing it's required for human happiness to have,
Exactly.
and then boom, we need to start doing it.
Exactly. And if more people can just start taking care of where they live and finding where their passions and talents are, step into that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think big governments and big corporations are going to solve our problems. We have got to do it from the ground up, from the neighborhood up.
Yeah. And I genuinely wonder whether people we're going to talk about agency. I have questions, and you speak about it in the book. But it does feel like there is a depleted sense of agency in
Yes.
this day and age. Like, what can I do? Like, look at all of that happening up there or out there, and it's all so much, and but your book, I definitely felt a sense as I read it, that it's a kind of call to arms for everybody from their corner to realize life can be sweeter, and let's take some steps to actually start building that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's why I hope to inspire people, not to move to Serenby, but instead look in your own neighborhood and what have we done that could inspire you to do something similar.
Now, something we talked about in the first show was the crime rate, because that was fascinating. Is the crime rate still like ridiculously low?
Absolutely. And one of the biggest things is eyes on the street. I mean, people are out on the street. They're walking to get their mail. They're walking to the restaurants. They're walking to school, and walking their dogs. There's eyes on the street. And several people in public safety have said that's one of the greatest things we could do. Gates do not deter people, and even cameras, but eyes on the street, people feeling like they have been seen. Not only deters crime, but what a sense of community when you feel seen as a neighbor or a visitor,
Yes.
with people looking in your eyes, saying, "Can I help you?"
Yeah. I don't know whether it's because I knew I was chatting with you again soon, but my husband and I and son have been more actively creating community. Like, we had a chat about what that looked like, and I can't tell you what it does to simply decide to be more community oriented, the opportunities just show up everywhere. We had too many veggies in our delivery box last week. The neighbor got them, and then they dropped over some fried rice that they had made with all the veggies.
See
And
there?
then, you know, and like my husband saw a kid struggling with a skateboard trick. And he's like, I skated my whole life. Do you want me to show you? And the mother was like, oh my God, thank you. I know nothing about skating. And then we're all having a chat about skating. And then this little 8-year-old's super excited because he knows how to do the trick now. And I think it's really quite magical when you simply decide to be more community oriented. We feel happier. We noticed we were getting depressed by all the global crap, and you know, the rise of fascism ain't fun, but like actually starting to be more community minded makes the nervous system kind of relax, and then you actually have more energy to be active if you need to be politically active beyond community.
Perfectly said. That's exactly what we need to inspire everyone to do. And,
Mm.
you feel better about it. And then the other people, oh, wow, look at this. And then as you
It's
said,
yeah.
then they think about what they could do.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the Serenbe principles starting to move beyond Serenbe and inspire people to do a little bit of what we're talking about. What are some of your favorite ways for things to start in your own backyard?
Well, one thing is so many people are looking at lawns
Mm.
and ornamentals that then they fertilize. And then a lot of times
Spray.
they spray. If you have
Yeah.
weeds, if you have lawns, you're going to have weeds. And pretty soon then the natural predators have disappeared. So you start spraying for the bugs. And we're creating chemical waste fields to live in and for our children to play in. And we're not thinking about that.
Mm.
And that's one of the biggest things. If we just think of the environment where we are and what we are unintentionally doing without thought, because it's become the pattern to do these things.
Yeah.
Um, and that's huge. I mean, we have over 300 children now living at Serenby full time. Not one reported sign of asthma. Uh,
Wow.
that's statistically impossible in the United States.
Mm.
Uh, but we're seeing that we have seniors who maybe had a respiratory problem or developed, so they move here and it clears up.
Mm.
So I don't think we're asking enough of the hard questions.
I
Why are
agree,
we
Steve.
sicker?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Why are we?
the what's in the air. The noise pollution disturbs our nervous system with all the
Mm.
conveniences of air compressors and the hum. That's why we make geothermal mandatory. It's for the quietness, and of course the benefit also is it cuts your utility costs for HVAC in
Yeah.
half. It's the water in the earth. You drill down, and then you have recycling tube that comes up, and so you're either heating or cooling water to supply your forced air
Mm-hmm.
versus air. So your water stays consistent. With your air compressors, which almost everyone has, it's taking hot air in the summer and cooling it down,
Yeah.
and it's taking cold air in the winter and heating it up. And that's what's driving the costs up, or that's why the geothermal is half of what it is for HVAC. But
Mm-hmm.
the real benefit to me is there's no noise.
Mm.
And we forget how much noise we encounter from a day-to-day basis on all the conveniences that we've created to live.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot. We're lucky to live by a park, and it's a very neighborhoody little suburb near the city. But it's so quiet. You know, you hear birds, you hear there's mainly dogs is
Yeah,
what you would hear, and I feel really lucky to do that because I think it's intentional as well that we've decided that
sure.
that's important for us. But it does make a difference when you're at nature's door instead of um, 4 lanes of traffic.
That's right. And even some places near nature, on golf courses, they have all these compressors going, and
Mm.
you'll hear them, or you put your own bedroom windows up, and all of a sudden you hear the backyard air compressor going off
Yeah.
to cool it down, especially spring and fall. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
And then I'm a real thing about visual pollution too.
Mm.
All the kind of trash cans and mailboxes at the end of the sidewalk and all those things. We pollute so much of where we live with all these things, and we don't think about it. But it's
And so
affecting us.
trash cans, what's the solution there?
We bury ours in the ground,
Okay.
and they're right by the front walk or the front door. And then if it's in a solid bag, it goes to trash. If it's in a clear bag, it goes to recycling. And if it's a compost container, it goes to the. We have a commercial compost over at the farm that totally used to regenerate the soil there. And then it's picked up twice a week by an electrical vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not noisy, it's not sightly, and it's convenient.
Right. So they're literally opening something up like as if they were opening the ground.
It's a can that you step on.
Mm.
It's a 50-gallon drum inside there that we have custom made, and you then the porters can just step on it and it lifts it, and then they reach out. There's a limit on what the weight is on those bags, and it's easy. You never have that visual problem that I hate
Mm.
on trash day.
Wow. And so that could be something you could actually organize with a local council to decide we want to solve for trash cans.
Absolutely.
How do we do that? Yeah.
There's a lot of things that people can come together. And when you
Mm.
start thinking about these things, whether it's, air pollution, visual pollution, noise pollution, it starts becoming obvious.
Mm.
But we're not because it's become the norm.
Yeah, we don't solve for things that feel so normal you don't even notice them
That's right. And
until you do.
and I believe they're affecting a lot of what we're complaining about.
Hmm. Well, I don't doubt it. Yeah, okay. And so, in terms of, okay, I've got another question that kind of comes back to something we were talking about before, a sense of powerlessness, global crises, and yet we've already kind of touched on the fact that going hyper local could actually be the perfect antidote to start changing what we see much further out from us that we feel we have no influence over.
Yeah.
What
So
are your thoughts on that?
if you don't have influence, if you can't affect the things, why are you spending all of your energy researching it, looking at it, and let it bother you?
Mm.
Just be aware, but then think about what's right in front of you that you could change. And it's just like you're doing kind deeds for people in your neighborhood and actually knowing them, you feel better. It's the same thing. If people just started exerting their talents in their neighborhood where they have influence, for many it's their physical place, but others such as you, it's a podcast, it's our communities can be defined in many ways where we have influence.
Mm.
But I just think it would be a different world, and we've come to this place where it's easy to complain
Mm.
and expect someone, much more powerful than us to solve it. And we've forgotten our own power. But
Yeah.
when you start living in community, you start realizing that. Well, one of the most exciting things is all of the retired people. We're kind of balanced. It's not, there's many kids. We really are pretty balanced, like a community. But
Mm.
the retired people are stepping in and running nonprofits, volunteering, doing so much. And then working with some of these young people. And I often think the baby boomers, I think as our nation as a whole, have a tendency to think, well, as difficult as it's all going to work its way out, it never has. And so
Mm.
they're not nearly as motivated to step into change. But the young people, they have been born into a fragile world. And they do not have that same attitude. They're very concerned, and they're stepping in to take action. And I hope the elders, as daily responsibilities sort of ease up, can join this younger population to solve some of these things. And if we do that on a local basis, I think some of those things will start emerging.
Mm. And so, do you have an example of young people working on something that they believe in and elders stepping in to support them, like a concrete thing that you can share? Waters Co Australia have been a leading alkaline remineralized filtered water solution for over a decade. In fact, first one I bought about 14 years ago. I love that not only do they take out everything from chlorine to fluoride, heavy metals, pesticide residue, herbicide residue, viruses, bacteria, PFAS, and they remineralize even the tiny compact 7-stage filter that goes into the mini Waterman and jug. The benchtop options are brilliant for families, and you have 3 to 5 years for that refill before you have to replace it. So from an economy perspective, it's also the best value for the quality of water that you get. We literally don't leave home without one of our Waters Co products. You have 15% off with the code LOWTOX15 percentage symbols. You can use the auto applied code link in the show notes under YouTube or from our link in bio over on Instagram. You get 15% off site wide, very generous. It's one of my top low tox recommendations. Go check out which one is best for your home situation and budget and make the most of it. Let's get back to the show.
Well, anywhere from, let's say, our trails. That we got them in. We have someone rather famous who moved here from California pre-pandemic. She wanted to get her kids out of everything we've been talking about, the system that has become normal. And then because in education now we have kids in different schools. We have the buses, we have the local school, but some, everybody. And she realized that some of the kids were in different schools and didn't really know each other. Mm-hmm. She started a drama club, and now they put on productions, and these are all kids coming in, and then you have adults coming in also to help. Incredible. So this was so successful. Someone else here decided to start just a community theater. Well, it's they do productions, but they include kids and sometimes parts that would normally be adults, and so it is just heartwarming to see these people. From my 9-year-old grandson was in the last one, and there were people in their 80s in it. And so multi-generational neighbors all coming together. The school, there's a lot of seniors that come to read and do things at the school, and a lot of volunteerism happening there. Gosh, there's so many civic things that happened. Changing agriculture, and you'll see all the generations coming in and helping. We have what's emerging, we're just starting to identify, we're calling them homesteaders. And it's people who, and this is in the greater area. So, we changed the zoning. So while Serenby is the community, we are affecting this greater area. And so we have people moving here and deciding, gosh, I've got 2 acres. I'm gonna start planting a crop that maybe I can sell to the restaurants. And they're getting their kids, and then they're getting volunteer neighbors to come help. And so it's just community.
Yeah.
And everyone starts to see this.
And given in America, well, what we see, looking at America, there is a huge political divide that seems irreparable. In Serenby, do you have people who vote differently, but everyone's kind of in harmony? Like it's actually...
Absolutely.
Yeah, focused on your overlaps.
Total overlap. I don't allow signs in yards because I believe they create walls rather than bridges. We encourage coffees and conversations instead. But if you look at any voting records, we someone said, gee, I love having a conversation in the neighborhood barbecue here. Where we came from, we didn't agree with all of our neighbors, and we never said anything. Here, there's about 30% that we know is one way, 30% the other. But there's a big enough middle that
Mm.
everyone's kind of comfortable because it varies on what the issue is.
Yeah, so powerful. If you foster the middle through conversation and community, you protect yourself from the extremes continuing to distance themselves from each other.
That's right. That's right.
Mm.
And so I know people vote very differently, but you don't know that from a day-to-day basis here,
Mm.
because we're neighbors. And so even though you might know someone votes differently, and usually we can even joke about it.
Which
I
is
think
a healthy
oh,
community. That's a sign.
I was introducing someone who was visiting here a couple of weeks ago, and we were walking by, and I forget the reason for the conversation, but we stopped at some people having, excuse me, coffee in one of our sidewalk cafes, or they were in the sidewalk. And so I figured it veered to politics somehow. And they asked a similar question. Well, how are people here? And I said, well, no. In fact, the two people you're talking to vote absolutely at opposite extremes. And the one said, and you would not guess which is which, because I bet you'd point us the other way. And he's
Wow.
absolutely right.
Mm.
The one that was more buttoned up was voting the liberal, and the one who was kind of in bare feet was the conservative. And
Mm.
so uh, that's the fun part. We recognize our differences, but move forward on the things that really matter.
Mm.
That's, what are our kids doing? Do we have fresh air? Do the streets feel safe? Those are the things that matter on a local level.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, wow. It's just always so great to hear it's working. Somewhere it's working.
Oh
I
my
feel
God,
like it's working where I live, but
last
yeah.
night, last night we went through our wildflower meadow to see a New York production that's set up here playing through our art farm. So you see, in addition to everything else, we have professional arts because we have a 1% transfer on every house sold or resold, which allows us to fund over $1 million a year in arts programming.
Wow.
So, how fortunate that
Mm.
here's a troupe out of New York are now performing in our wildflower meadow. Beautiful night, open air.
Incredible. So
Uh,
incredible. And why the emphasis on the arts? Like, I know why it's super important. I'm a student of politics and history. But I think people need to understand it because I'm seeing an undertow of, yeah, move away from the arts and Hollywood's all like, trying. And yeah, there are parts of Hollywood that I think, God, why do we need this gratuitous level of violence to kind of, I feel like we've hit extremes in what we see on screens these days, but the arts, the classics, productions of drama, like it reminds you you're alive and it reminds you of the full spectrum of humans.
Absolutely. Well,
Mm.
when I realized I was going to be a developer, and of course our first thing was, land preservation,
Mm.
and that brought to density. Countryside of England was our model.
Yeah.
And so that's land and density. But then I thought, okay, what are the pillars of community? And I identified art, agriculture, education, and health and wellness. And so we're moving forward on those four pillars to make sure they're here. And so for the arts, I felt that was important because that's how you can speak to people through their hearts rather than their logical minds.
Yeah.
And, post-pandemic, there were studies before that, but beauty is so important to our own well-being.
Mm.
And, I remember the popularity of the Blue Zone. And I mentioned to Dan Butner when we were together that I said, I think you forgot one tenet, and that's beauty. And
Mm.
every place you've identified is beautiful, but you didn't call it out as one of those things that feeds our spirit for longevity.
Mm.
And so beauty, in the visual, in the performance, the audible, what do we hear? And so we really put a emphasis on that from all of our streetlights. We are commissioned by an artist and made by craftsmen. And so you just feel it. It's illuminating everywhere. And as I said, we have performing arts. We were able to save a group leaving the Atlanta Ballet that were the contemporary group, and we brought them under our umbrella for 5 years, and now they've been able to stand on their own as a modern ballet company and perform in our fields and wildflower meadows, as well as in major theaters in Atlanta. So it's uplifting, and and you can, through art, you can talk about difficult subjects.
Yes.
The
Mm,
Black Lives Matter period is one of those times.
mm,
And our community, because I don't have signs, and you saw signs starting to go up, and I said, no, you can't have signs. And then people started saying, well, are you racist? No, no, it's a rule, and that doesn't help. And then, of course, I get an email. Well, if you let them to keep that sign up, I'm going to put one in my yard that fetuses matter. So
mm.
there you are. You have two sides with issues that they felt strongly about, but we didn't
Yeah.
allow signs. So no one had walls. No one, you might have a conversation to know where people are. And so this move is saying, well, how is, and we have several people of color who live here, but they said, how can we make sure visitors know that?
Mm,
So they came together in their own discussion groups and formed the Black Arts Committee, and they raised 130,000, I think it was,
wow.
and launched a competition among Black artists. And they asked me for sites that would be okay, and I identified four, and they chose one. And this was a beautiful process that it awakened artists literally all over the world, because it was a very nice prize. Um, and they brought, I think it was 20 of the artists who had applied, and they thought they brought them here, and it wasn't just for them to see the site or to meet each other, but then they had discussions about the issues of race and art.
Mm,
And whoa, I mean, those were important conversations that came at it from a complete different angle than just the social things that were happening at the time. And that's resulted in this beautiful piece of sculpture that's near our entrance. And they have, it's such a moving story that they have done a documentary on it. And I'm
wow.
not
What's
sure.
it called?
We have seen, it's the Black Arts Project at Serenby.
Okay.
And you can Google it to learn about it.
Yeah, I was going to
And,
say I'll put it in the
and
show notes.
we have seen the screening, and I'm not sure when it's going to be available
Mm,
to actually, I'll have to check on that. But
mm.
that's just an example on simple things that we've turned our back on, actually are key in so many things that are bothering us. And why have we lost that dialogue? Why have we lost awareness of what's important?
Mm.
Um,
And why are we worried that if we give space to something that it wants to come out and express,
that's
that
right.
that's going to take everything over? I think there's that, that's that fascist creep, right?
Right.
Like, let's blame like people and keep suppressing people so that we keep everything the way we like, which is, yeah, yeah. I think it's so powerful when you actually let it happen and give frameworks for space for different community groups, then no one feels repressed, suppressed, oppressed.
Everyone
And
feels empowered.
yeah,
And that's
and
what happened. The committee started, and then more people said, oh, uh, I, I know some artists that should be part of it. Well, I can help identify some. Who are the judges going to be? I could help you find professional judges that could come in.
mm,
Uh, oh, this is such a great project. What could I do to help?
yeah,
Uh, oh, we're going to prepare the site. So here's what you have: multi-generations. Oh, let's clean the site. Let's prepare.
mm,
What do they need? And then the unveiling. All the people came together for music and dance around the unveiling of a piece of sculpture.
amazing, amazing. It's like suppression of ideas and art actually produces um, a sense of I'm not heard. coming back
That's
to
right.
what you were saying, people, eyes on the street. So if you have eyes on the street, meaning people are seen and heard, you have a much more peaceful society as well, which is what you guys experience on the daily.
That's right. That's right.
Steve, I want to ask you, because when we think of a property developer, you usually think of a profit first, like super ruthless person. And like you are the antithesis of the stereotype of a property developer. Why do you think it is that you feel so happy to create happy, peaceful spaces instead of to own and control for profit? Like, what is it about Steve that made the Serenby choice and not the, multiple condominiums and raking in billions and that kind of property developer?
Well, you have to remember, I stepped into this
Yeah.
not as a developer to develop land, but as a reaction to saving the land.
Mm.
And I would what you would call an unintentional developer. But once I realized that to develop it was the only way we were going to save it, because I had to show a new model, how
Mm.
development and preservation should walk hand in hand. 100 years ago, I wasn't unusual 80, 100 years ago. The person developing an area cared about the land and cared about the people there, and they were going to be their neighbors.
Mm.
And so I'm stepping in the model of developers from decades ago, that's building community and not shelter, that I will pass on to do another uh, group of shelter places.
Mm.
And that's also what we teach about placemaking. The real difference about placemaking is you create place with hospitality centers and a lot of these things. And then the people come and the people come to visit.
Mm.
We have such a vibrant restaurant and shop community because 80% of the patrons are coming from outside Serenbe,
Yeah.
because we've created this great place that people want to come, hang out for a day, bring their conference here, because we have the Inn at Serenby. And so we have so many visitors all the time supporting all these operations that all of our people now get to walk to.
Mm. And so the walkability piece, do you see that as one of the keys to that eyes on the street, more peaceful, kind of connected
Well,
community?
it absolutely is. And if
Mm.
you look, I was at a TED conference and an Urban Land Institute conference the same year, maybe about 4 years ago, and this is one of the big subjects at both. And a lot of the statistics on where we've come in this auto-oriented society, and that in the span of civilization, this is going to look like a 50-year-old ridiculous experiment.
Mm.
There is no diagram that you can look at that makes it look like it works. We use our cars a ridiculous like 90% of the time.
Oh my goodness.
I mean not 10%. They're parked 90% of the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And we have 3 parking spaces, asphalt parking spaces for every car. And
Think
and
about how much food you could grow in those other two spaces,
and
or,
then we have all these
mm,
big, several thousand pounds vehicles moving one person generally.
mm.
It clogs the streets. It is the most inefficient system that's been created. And we're the young people and the seniors, the young people today, they figured out they don't have to have this baggage of a car.
Mm.
They can call a chauffeur. We're still stuck in that idea of independence is owning your own car. They see independence as not having a car because there's ways for them to get everywhere. And cars means you have to worry about the maintenance, the insurance, the upkeep. If it gets hit, you have to deal with it. They're not burdened with that.
Yeah.
And then the seniors, they're starting to realize they can't drive or shouldn't drive. So the two bookends of our current society are both moving to walkable communities, whether it's inner cities or
Mm.
places like Serenby.
Yeah.
And as autonomous cars or shared driving is going to increase, and it's bound to, uh, this is going to change.
Mm.
As someone was sharing, no matter what people think about shared and autonomous cars, uh, once it really becomes feasible, and we're starting to see it with the driverless taxis, that
Yeah.
that there's a lot of things that you're going to see the license plate to drive a car get very expensive, because it's the only way our departments of transportation can stop adding asphalt and asphalt and asphalt. They can't afford to keep adding it.
Mm.
And then they're having to repair it while they're adding it, and they're having trouble. Well, they will solve that by just taking the prices up. And then it's shown that the driverless and the shared are more safe. And so the insurance are going to really start hitting when you a drivable car,
Mm.
a self-driving car. And so, it's going to be, who knows how many decades, but owning your own drivable car is going to be like owning a nice horse today.
Mm. I gotta say, I mean, we still have a car because I still have a teenager who plays sport, and the better they get at sport, the further you got to drive to take
Absolutely.
them to different things. But other than that, I live intentionally a half-hour walk at maximum from 90% of what I have to do in my
See there?
life.
You're living it.
Yeah, I really am. And
But
I designed it. So many people say, oh, yeah, but in a city, there's no community. I'm like, are you kidding me? I know everyone from the cafe to the shop owner to the market stall holder and, my kid, like people say, oh, we love Sebastian. He always stays for a chat. And it's so community oriented because we are never in a car. And when you got a dog, add that, you're stopping to pat and chat and, all that kind of stuff, which I didn't realize was going to make such a big difference
huge,
to sense of community. But we now know an extra 200 people in our community by name since getting
because
a
you
dog.
because you're walking places and you have the dog.
Yeah,
No,
it's
it's huge.
awesome.
It's
Yeah.
huge. And you look at all these people frustrated in traffic jams,
Oh, I
and
could not
you
imagine
can see
anything
the
worse.
anger building up.
It's like, I think once you think to yourself and tune in, what riles my nervous system up and what chills it out, and making sure that we design for more chill and less rile, then you can be really intentional about it, I
That's
believe.
right. But why aren't more people asking that?
Mm. Well, we are
And,
today.
well, I know it, and that's what's so wonderful.
Mm.
But that's what surprised me. People are complaining and becoming less healthy, and they're not saying why.
Mm.
So that's
Yeah.
great that you're promoting these conversations with me and others I know to
Mm.
really start looking at some of these issues.
Yeah. It's tricky because I think about systems that I do think about the erosion of middle class quite a bit,
Yes.
with this rich get richer, poor get poorer uh, situation we're in. And that is tricky. How do you feel like when you were speaking to everybody at TED about like where the future's going? Is anyone trying to solve for that more actively? Solve for the sense that there's a decreasing sense that prosperity is even
Oh.
possible?
Um, well, this is depending on where you talk to in the press.
Mm.
But the statistics show, and I think this is a real problem, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
What's happening is the middle class is shrinking, but they're going to both places. They're not, you immediately think they're all moving to below, but it's divided,
Mm.
which comes to your point. It's more of a divided
Yeah.
haves and have-nots. Uh, it's a huge, huge thing that we have to deal with, and I don't know what that is other than come back to community,
Yeah.
where it isn't how much you have. I mean, if you look at our bigger community, everyone can come to the art. Our private school, 25% of the kids have to be on scholarship. So that
Mm.
means the local farmer, the local merchant's kids all can go there if they want to. So it's when you have a community to where you're interacting and you don't really focus on who has the big house or what
Mm.
house they're in, but you're coming together for common things of school, of art, of food. I mean,
Mm.
my goodness, people growing the food, coming in and interacting. It's much more of an interactive. What is this? How are you growing it? Than, oh, you're growing my food and I'm buying it from you. I don't
Mm.
see that at all. It's hey, we're all focused on local food.
Yeah.
It's it's these basic things of life that we bring together. Then you're not as much focused on the other. But no, we it's a society that we've moved to where it's got to change.
Mm.
And now that's one where governments are going to have to be some things.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's it. A
but
lot of people think leave the system, but a huge element of fixing it is make the system better from within
yeah,
for
but
more
things
people.
happen from the ground up.
Yeah, yeah, they do.
And and so why we have some of these big corporations is
Mm.
because we have all become accustomed to buying and supporting these big systems.
Mm.
So if we come back to local, whether it's our food, our systems, uh, gosh, my 7-year-old grandson for his birthday got a 3D printer, and now they're making their toys.
Mm. Wow.
And so suddenly that's not Amazon, that's not the big toy maker, it's
Mm.
local.
Yeah.
They're buying the spools and that kind of thing. But as we come back to local economies, it's going to disrupt these systems that are affording these big executives and this
Mm.
big system.
Relocalize, buy from each other more,
That's
not
right.
Jeff. Yeah, yeah.
Let's let's bring back local,
Mm.
uh, and that's only from that's a groundswell market that has to change.
It is. And I think there's a psychological piece of I don't need as much as I think I do in
Oh,
that because, the initial thought is, oh, but I can't afford more than a $12 t shirt for my kid or whatever. But sometimes because the norm, something so normal you don't even notice it anymore, is to have 10 different t shirts. Then yeah, you need to have them as cheap as possible. But if you just really recognized what you actually needed, it's often a lot less than a lot of
absolutely.
us think.
And just
Yeah.
rethinking things. One thing that I want to stand up here. It's conceptual on a drawing board at this point, and people are
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
around. We have all these
Okay.
ideas. It takes somebody to run them forward.
Mm.
But it's nationally known that there's a lot of food waste, and
Yes. Oh my
and
goodness.
it actually starts on the farm field
Mm.
because we've come to this place where everything has to be beautiful to go to market.
Mm.
So nature doesn't always grow 100% beautiful, and
Yeah.
then things get scarred in harvesting and what have you. And so there's an amazing amount that's left at the farm and in the field.
Mm.
Y- Then you have an industry, a growing industry. More people are eating out. So you have a hospitality industry that needs trained people to just slice a carrot.
Mm.
How do you slice an onion? How do you do some simple things? And then the third leg of the stool. Do you know about Wholesome Wave?
No?
it is a great problem here, program here in America. A famous chef, Michel Nichon, became
Oh,
concerned about these
I'm writing
very
it down.
issues,
Yeah.
and so he started Wholesome Wave, and this is and then it was approved by part of the Farm Bill that anyone with food stamps could actually turn them in at the local approved farmers market. So this is supporting local farms.
Mm.
It is getting fresh food into some of these homes, and it's a great program. Now they found that not as many families were taken advantage of as they should because some of the single parents were too busy
Yeah.
to take fresh food and prep it. So
Mm.
the idea came, all of our churches have commercial kitchens that sit empty all week.
Yeah.
What if we had somebody that worked with the farms to gather all the things that aren't going to market and then brought them into that kitchen, and you could have culinary teachers teaching these people, preparing them for jobs in the restaurants.
Mm.
And then you could do 2 meals to where people could come, and it would be as reasonable as if they took their family to the fast food.
Hmm.
So you're letting them to come. And then you could have prepare foods that they could buy for the next 2 nights.
Amazing.
So you're dealing with a lot of systems that need addressing on a local
Mm.
basis. And that's how we're going to change big industry.
And you could even make use of volunteer hours from seniors
Oh,
chopping food.
huge.
You know what I mean? Like, especially if
Absolutely.
it's a church community, you could, or, a mosque or whatever, like you would see those elders would love to contribute in that way in so many cases.
And many of them have great talents with the food, and some
Yes.
of them even been professional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100%. I saw a comedian, like a comedy movie with my son recently, where a guy hired, like, I think Vince Vaughn was the lead male, and he hired all these nonnas who had never worked in professional kitchens, but their whole family kind of raved about their recipes, and they came together to build a restaurant. And I was so inspired by that, because then when I hear about something like Wholesome Wave, you can see how you can make the most of people. We often like shove elders to the side. It's
No,
like, but what? Like, without purpose, we know from Blue Zone's research that that diminishes quality of life, health, and, end of life outcomes. So why not create more opportunity to feel like you matter?
that's right.
Mm.
So many of these solutions are right in front of us.
Yeah. That's the theme. Yeah. And in your book, like, if you think about a section that you took particular joy in writing, is there one that comes out where, like, there's a particular passion of yours as a person that you really enjoyed sharing?
Well, I think creating community is the passion.
Mm.
But, if there's any piece of the book that I love, it's the dedication. And the dedication is to my grandchildren and future generations, which is why I've really written this. Because we have to start addressing these things. I stand on the shoulders of the journey of at least 5 generations, and I know their story, and I'm here today because of that. I hate to think of what the future generations are going to think about the policies and the decisions we made during this time that has set them up for maybe not as pleasant a life.
Mm.
And that's why I wanted to just holler and scream and write that we can do better. We've got to start asking the hard questions and analyzing our own talents in our own area. And we could change this, but
Mm.
we can't continue waiting for somebody else to come do it.
Ugh, 100%, Steve. Thank you for inspiring us. I feel like what I got from the book was a real sense that it so matters to not only cultivate your own sense of agency, but to then apply whatever you're inspired by, because different people are inspired by different things, And the power in truly building a peaceful and prosperous society is the belief that it matters not just to you and your own family, work that you decide to do, but that you create for people you may never meet. And that matters
Absolutely.
when you look
Absolutely.
out. Yeah.
I mean, I reluctantly stepped into this,
Yeah.
and there were times, it jeopardized our comfort zone, both financially and time and everything else. It's the greatest gift, well, number one, all three daughters returned with their northern husbands, and so all the grandchildren are being raised right here. I see them almost every day.
Wow, that's
I mean, what a
amazing.
joy that is. But
Yeah.
the people who stop me on the street and tell me how their life has changed and thank me, and to your point you raised earlier, I have many times developers say, "How can you possibly live in the community you built? Doesn't that drive you crazy?" And I said, "How can you possibly live elsewhere when
Well, isn't it
when
a test?
when you hear the wonderful, I've improved people's lives, and I love to hear those stories."
Do you know, I just had a thought. Like, I often say I have a hospitality background, and I often think it would serve everybody very well to have to do at least a month in
Absolutely.
hospitality.
Absolutely.
What if a developer, if you want to develop there, great, but you have to live there for 5 years?
Yes.
They
Be a
might
rule.
design a little bit differently, don't we think?
They should.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're not living there, it should be for your children and grandchildren.
Well, you've inspired our listeners not once, but now twice. And I'm sure many people are thinking about what it looks like for them in this next day. Do you have like a little challenge you want to issue us, Steve, to finish things off?
Absolutely. Ask the questions. I doubt few listeners are totally satisfied with what's going on around them. Just take a moment instead of complaining or just ignoring it. Ask the question, what could I do to change where I live and maybe the people around me? And if people would start doing that, I think we'd see changing world. We have just become numb, thinking we have to put up with whatever's going on, and that's not the case.
It's not. Thanks so much for joining us again.
Thanks for the conversation. I love it.
Thank you for joining us in listening to this week's show. If you're not already subscribed or following the show on whatever platform you listened, please do that now. It helps enormously in terms of getting this show out to more people. Another way you can connect and support the work we do so that we can support you in your low tox life is join us in the Low Tox Club. You'll get access to amazing member masterclasses where we invite some of our best show guests for a live Q&A with members. You also have great shopping discounts from low tox businesses and honestly, the nicest low tox community Facebook group that exists on the internet. I do hope you join us there. It costs just the price of a coffee a month on average. Head to lowtoxlife.com, hit the Explore tab, and Low Tox Club is the first option there. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.